Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Hashem, Shai, Hashem, Harakah, Kadash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and shalom to the hopeful elect. This video is entitled If, alright? And I'm going to get right into it. This is Sirach 32 and 8, alright? And the entitlement of the video being named If, as an example I'll bring out later on in the video as to why it's named that. Alright, but it's in tune, it's in line with this proverb right here. Alright, this dark saying. Sirach 32 and 8. Let thy speech be short. Alright. What does it mean by your speech being short? Does it mean you should give a grand speech like you're on the Grammy Awards and someone's got to start playing the music to cut you halfway through your speech for you to shorten it? No. It says this: comprehending much in few words. The reason why your speech should be short is because the ability to comprehend what's being said, okay, should be done in a few words. You should be able to convey your point, alright, in few words, alright? And that's a skill. That's not, in order for you to have that ability of comprehension, that means you have to have great command of all of the wisdom, basically, alright? As they say the ability to understand something is shown by the ability to teach it. So if you're able to break down something to layman's terms to where even a baby can get, so to speak, then that means you have great command over that skill, okay? And that's the same thing with this. You should have great skill and comprehension of this word to be able to convey your point with few words, all right? So be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue. And that was a skill that Yahweh Shai showed with great ferocity, man. He did that with great ability. That's why the people said, who is this man that we've never heard the word spoke like this, because he spoke as one with great authority. Right? He doesn't speak as the scribes and Pharisees, the wicked scribes and Pharisees, basically, because they had grandiose speeches and whatnot, but he just came and conveyed the point with great weight. All right, and that's why the wit of Yahweh Shai, whenever he rebutted any of the wicked scribes and Pharisees, was beyond their level of comprehension. Okay, that's why it got to the point where they wanted to kill him. Okay, because they couldn't deal with him in any other arena. And ultimately is for the spirit, the word of Yahweh Hashem El Shai to come to fulfillment, all right? As it tells you in Isaiah 55 and 11, the word of the Most High don't go out void, but it shall accomplish anything it's sent out to do, loosely paraphrasing, all right? So that's the comprehension of much in little, okay? And you have examples of this, all right? A great example of this is the Hebrew itself, okay? The Hebrew language is a very forward language, okay? It doesn't have no it's not, the complexity of the Hebrew language is very simple. The alphabet is very straightforward. The grammar is very straightforward, okay? You deal with the topic, the subject or the item and then the description, and it's very straightforward, okay? And a lot of it, grammatically, you add on a ya, ma, nawar, these various forms of pronouns and whatnot to basically establish the point. And it's very simple, okay? But the point being is that in the simplicity of that, the speech is also simple. So it conveys a heavy point. Really, that heaviness in the establishment of a point is it all up in the Hebrew, okay? And guess what? Who made the Hebrew? Adam, all right? Adam made the Hebrew when he named the animals. That's why you have the alap, R as alap, because that goes back to when in the book of Genesis, when the Lord brought all the animals onto Adam and gave him to name it. And it's fitting because Yahweh Shai is who in the reincarnation? Adam, all right? And which is the word, all right? Which was there from the beginning. But now let me get to a point. Let me show an example of great judgment that was shown. Actually, before I do that, I want to build upon that point of the the simplicity of the Hebrew. Now, if you know anything in the book of Second Maccabees, I believe the 12th chapter, it speaks about the Lacedaemonians who were basically shared kinship with the Hebrews, okay? And the Lacedaemonians are also known as today the Spartans, okay? So this is an article from the Art and Manliness, and and I'm going to show you something to deal with that history, okay? Part of our heritage. So this is the Art and Manliness, the Spartan way, the mindset and tactics of a battle-ready warrior. So now I'm going to go down to this point right here. It says, speak and think laconically, okay? Laconic, it's going to break it down anyway. So the Spartan philosopher Chelon, one of the 7 sages of Greece, famously said that less is more. And this is a maxim that guided the whole ethos of Lacedaemonia, from its buildings to its citizens, clothing and diet. Indeed, Spartan today remains a descriptor synonymous with simplicity, austerity, and frugality. All right, something that we share a form of kinship with, comfort with discomfort, and a disdain for luxury. The less is more principle also governed the language of the Spartans. All right, so that went all across the board. Who took a minimalist approach to speech, which today we still refer to as laconic. The ideal was to speak only when one had something important to say. All right. Now we just read this in the book of come on, man. In the book of Sirach. Now, if you read before, it says in the 7th verse, it says, "Speak, young man, if there be need of thee, and yet scarcely when thou art asked twice asked." So it shows you that is of great skill to hold your peace. Reading on, so that falls in line with culturally as well. The ideal was to speak only when one had something important to say, and then only in short, terse bursts, pithy sayings, and sharp, clever replies that characterize laconic wit. All right. The Spartans honed their words until they were as sharp as their spears, and just as sure to find their mark. For example, legend has it that when Philip II sent a message saying, "If I enter Laconia, I will raise Sparta," the Spartans sent but a one-word reply, "If." And that's cold, man. Because they just picked apart what was said and brought forth the main point. If you enter into Laconia, you'll raise it. That's if you can get here. All right? And of course, there is a famous story of the soldier of Thermopylae who lamented to Lacedaemonians that the Persians shot as many arrows that they darkened the sun. The warrior kings reply, "Then we will fight in the shade." All right? And they showed you in the movie 300. Socrates thought that the Spartan singular style of speech was way of strategically getting others to underestimate them. All right? They conceal their wisdom and pretend to be blockheads so that they may seem to be superior only because of their prowess in battle. And this goes back to this point. Be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue. All right? So basically, there's another saying I'm trying to remember, man. Yeah, this is, I fool the wise when I play the fool, or playing fool to catch wise. That's a skill, okay? They conceal their wisdom and pretend to be blockheads so that they may seem to be superior only because of their prowess in battle. This is how you may know that I am speaking the truth, and that the Spartans are the best educated in philosophy and speaking. If you talk to any ordinary Spartan, he seems to be stupid, but eventually, like an expert marksman, he shoots in some brief remark that proves you to be only a child. It was also a field expedient way of speaking. You want to get straight to the point when yelling commands in chaos of combat, but the laconic tactic of conversing speech may have also been a deliberate philosophical choice, as historian Carl Ortfield Muller speculated. A habit of mind which might fit its processor for such a mode of speaking would best be generated by long and unbroken silence. That is, one wishes to make what he says count. He is forced to be more reflective before opening his mouth, and that is a point as well, because that is very true. You know that your words, this ultimately, again, it says that Yahweh Shai was the word, okay? So ultimately, the reason why I'm saying that is that the word has power, okay? And only your words have power. And that's a point I'll convey at the end of this video. So the words that you use, they have an energy behind them, so you need to pick your words wisely, all right? So I want to get into an example of judgment being done by King Solomon, and a showing of great wisdom. All right, so this is 1 Kings 3:16 on down. Then came there 2 women that were harlots unto the king, and stood before him. And the one woman said, O my lord, I and this woman dwelt in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass the 3rd day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also, and we were together. There was no stranger with us in this house, save we 2 in the house. And this woman's child died in the night because she overlaid it, all right? And she arose at midnight and took my son from beside me, while thine handmaid slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And when I arose in the morning to give my child suck, behold, it was dead. But when I had considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son, which I did bear. The mother's intuition. And the other woman said, Nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, No, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. Thus they spake before the king. Then said the king to the one saith, This is my son that liveth, and thy son is dead. And the other saith, Nay, but thy son is the dead, and my son is the living. All right, and this is what a king does. It goes through a channel of rank that would ultimately, if the men underneath the king couldn't deal with this, discern the judgment, then it would get passed up to the king. All right. So verse 24, and the king said, Bring me a sword, and they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the living child in 2, and give half to the one and a half to the other. Then spake the woman, whose the living child was, unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son. And she said, O my lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. But the other said, Let it be neither mine nor thine, but divide it. Which no woman, no, out of the 2, who would you think is a woman, is a mother? All right. Verse 27, Then the king answered and said, Give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. She is the mother thereof. And all Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of Yahweh was in him to do judgment. All right. And that goes back to this again. This scripture again. This is actually longer than I wanted it, but hey man, here's where it is. Lord willing, you be edified. This goes back to this point again. It's 32, right? 32 and 8. Let thy speech be short, comprehending much in few words. This is the point. Be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue. That judgment that he gave, he did it as one that all he said was, Bring my sword, cut the baby in 2. You have one, you have the other. And then the judgment came forth. All right. And that's really because why? He utilized it, he made his words count. All right. Short, comprehending much in little. So now I'm going to end on this. It's Hebrews 4:12. And it reads, for the word of Yahweh is quick. All right? Quick as in it's sharp. Okay? Because what does it say in John 6:63? The word quickeneth. All right? Lucy paraphrase, man, I can't remember it right, but just check out that scripture, John 6:63. And powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and joints and marrow. What does it tell you in the book of Sirach? It speaks about the tongue breaketh bones. Okay, basically your words break bones, but this word is a spiritual word, and it basically divides soul and spirit, dividing asunder of soul and spirit, right, joints and marrow. Reading on it says, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. And that's really the power of the word when utilized right. That's why I said it's sharper than any two-edged sword. A two-edged sword, the blade is facing who? The opponent and the user. All right. So that two-edged sword has the ability to cut you as well as it can cut the person that it's intended to harm. So in order to have skill and wield it correctly, you have to, have skill to wield it correctly. All right. And then in doing so, that's the ability to discern thoughts and the intents of the heart so it can be utilized correctly. So anyway, with that, man, I pray you were edified. Shalom.